I've just been for a trip around the bay on a boat that I've been wanting to get aboard for some time. This one, Malama, 11th Hour Racing Team's purpose-built IMOCA 60. Like any of the new generation of 60-footers, it's a weapon. Apparently, we were doing a race that didn't count for anything, at least not on points. Well, you could have fooled me. It's a fact that if you offer any professional crew a start line and a course, no matter how much they know that they don't need to win, they simply can't help themselves. But aside from that, this generation of boats are simply staggering. Upwind in 16 knots of breeze, we were matching the wind speed. Downwind, we were clocking 22 knots. And that's nowhere near what these boats are capable of. But aside from the speeds, what I wanted to see was what it was like aboard an IMOCA 60 that was specifically designed for a full crew of 5. And it was fascinating. The fact is that it's very different and difficult to sail a high-performance boat from below decks. No wind on your face, restricted view of the world, and barely enough headroom to stand up in. You may think that sailing a boat from inside has taken the challenge out of offshore sailing. We all joke about pajamas rather than foul weather gear, but I'd say it's made it even harder. It's not unusual to hear of crews who've never been seasick before having real issues on these boats, and I'm not surprised. It's a weird experience that's difficult to get across. But what I do know is that once you've tried it, it's difficult not to want more. Anyway, apart from all of that, the other thing that I enjoyed was having a chat with skipper Charlie Enright about the day and his expectations. Here's what he had to say. Now, Charlie,
yes,
when
sir.
we went out this morning at the briefing, you said, words to the effect of, no stress, this is just a practice thing, you know, no stress, we're not sort of pushing it hard, we're just out here, just take it easy, don't want to risk breaking anything. All very understandable. 5 minutes before the start, the mood seemed to change. It feels like the crew, like any professional race crew, only really has one gear, and that is, once you're on a race course, it's an opportunity to learn.
What do they say? The definition of a sailboat race is 2 boats inside of each other. There's a little bit of that. But it's funny you say that because that was pretty mellow for us.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, I think our tone and our demeanor stays the same, but I think our level of focus and the stakes and the communication, and we didn't have the whole squad today. For me, it's been a month since I've been on the boat, so it's just shaking off the dust. And I think we accomplished the goals today, which was keep it simple, bring the boat back in one piece, and build on this between now and the start. So.
I mean, I joke about it, but I mean, it strikes me also, listening to what you guys were talking about and the intensity of it, every time you go out is an opportunity to learn, isn't it? I mean, I guess that's the bottom line. And there's been so few opportunities to line up against other boats before this race.
Exactly. In a lot of ways, we're lucky to have been sailing in the IMOCA class because there's a whole entire circuit independent of the ocean race. Back in the day, it was, build your boat, cross your fingers, go to Lanzarote, and rock up here. I mean, that's kind of gone. So, we have had the opportunity, but relative to what lies ahead, it still hasn't been a lot of miles. So,
what do you think you learned out of today?
Other than shaking off the dust, I think for me, personally, it's when in these kind of lighter, trickier conditions where it's either displacement sailing or on the step, off the step, gotta get my head out of the boat. Just, the pilot does a good job in kind of, I don't want to say set it and forget it mode, but when the boat's powered up and things are consistent. But it's still not replacing a human when it comes to the transitions.
One of the things that struck me was on the leg back when we were sort of reaching. What was very noticeable was the different angles that the boats are sailing at. And I guess you as a fleet, in any of the boats, don't really know too much about your competition just yet, about what are their sweet spots going to be.
Yeah, these boats have a step function in the performance like no other boat I've ever seen. The difference between on the step and off the step can be 8 knots, and then you factor in that all the boats are slightly different and what it takes to get each and every one of them on the step, and you get a variety of different angles. Like on that run we were doing there, when the breeze was up, and we could get the boat to pop. We were doing 18s, 19s, sometimes 20s, and when we're in displacement mode, we're doing 9s, 10s, 11s. So, is it worth it, VMG downwind and transitions like that, to sail 120 degree true wind angle to actually get downwind to get the thing on the step so you can then push it down to 135 or something like that? And just, I think a lot of that still comes down to the feel of the sailor, and being inside the bubble with the pilot today wasn't very strong, and we were definitely a lot better when I popped my head out.
Do you think that is there a danger going forwards, at least for the early stages of the race, when you don't know so much about how other teams are going to behave in the same conditions? Is there a risk that you can get a bit spooked and see someone sailing higher and faster and think, oh crikey, should we go up there to defend? Or does it make it harder to stick by your goals and think, no, this is what our owners say, this is what we're going to do?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there are areas of strength and weakness, for us that we've seen in our training and when we have had the ability to line up with other boats. And, where we're strong, I think we're quite confident, and I don't think you'll see us getting spooked in a lot of those conditions. But there's areas that we know we still need to work on, and, it'll be probably, it's going to be the boat that's certainly sailing the best at the end of the race, not the boat that's sailing the best at the beginning of the race. So, a big part of this is how much better can any given team get over the course of the next 6 months. And, we know the areas that we're going to need to focus on and we want to focus on. So, if we see someone, particularly in those conditions, doing something better than us, it's an opportunity to learn, and it wouldn't be surprising at all. It'd be great if no one could be faster than us in what we deem to be our weak conditions, but, we're not that conceited. We're a pretty humble group, and, we're always looking to learn every time we go sailing.
Yeah. One of the other things that strikes me is that you started your project, obviously, a long time before everybody else. In fact, so much further before everybody else. The course was actually different then, and I wonder how much that influenced the style of the boat compared to looking at, say, Militia and Holcim that have got those spoon bows and apparently shorter waterline lengths and so on.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to trade places with anyone, I mean, we've had a good run up to this event, but, certainly along the way, a lot of things have changed, the course being one of them. And, this boat was designed to go back and forth to China and to spend, certainly fewer days than we're now staring down the barrel of in the south. So, we're trying to find other ways to optimize the platform we have for conditions that we weren't anticipating when we drew the lines of this boat. But, the benefit of that is, we are very strong in other conditions, and we do have an overall boat, which was always our objective. A lot of these other boats are geared more towards the Vendée Globe and heavy air downwind and big seas, and that's something that we've been working on a lot, and we're getting better every time we go sailing. But it also means that when the conditions play to our strengths, we feel pretty confident.
Well, it's nearly here. It's been quite a long haul, just a few days. It must be pretty exciting.
Yeah, we've been waiting a long time for this, in some ways, nobody's been, training for this more than us, but in other ways, the IMOCA culture has been in existence for 20 years, and the 3 years that we've been part of it is just a blip on the radar. So, we got to keep it all in perspective. It's a different kind of sailing, and, one that we've embraced and enjoy, but, as much as it seems like we've been the ones geared up for this event more than anybody else, total hours logged in the IMOCA, we're still newbies.
And finally, because that just reminds me of another question I wanted to ask you, and that was, how much do you think that, because what is really new about this is that this is the first time they're going to be raced fully crewed over this kind of distance. Do you think that come the end of the race that we as the sport, or as the area of the sport, will have learned something from it? And what do you think, if so, what do you think we might have learned? Will this take us on to the next stage, and what's that next stage going to be? That's a woolly question.
Yeah, it's a real interesting one, and we could talk about it, until the cows come home. But the IMOCA class is so healthy. You look at 40 boats doing the Vendée Globe. Does that mean that if you had a blank sheet of paper, and could start from scratch, you'd end up where the IMOCA class is today? No, probably not. But it's satisfying everybody else's agenda. The top boats are pushing innovation, and then their innovation trickles down to the B fleet and the C fleet, and then the adventurers at the end. So, there's not much to dislike when you look at just how healthy the organization is. Is it the best boat to sail fully crewed around the world? You know, I don't know. Is the definition of that changing? Yeah, a little bit. There's less and less people on board. You know, there's a lot of talk about the autopilot and everything like that, and you know, are they really sailors? And you know, you saw it today. I mean, you got to feel the boat, whether you're using the pilot or not. I mean, it's almost harder, you know, because you don't have that direct feedback or the wind in your face. So it's not just sailing to numbers. It's, you know, see the pants. You got to feel the boat and react accordingly. So
yeah, I just wonder.
It's just different, you know.
Yeah, well, it certainly is, and I completely agree with you. It's not easy sailing from inside. I wonder whether it actually.
Yeah, you know what? On a day when it's blowing 16 knots, we'll put you outside, and then all of a sudden inside will be looking pretty easy.
Oh yeah, I can see their benefits. But I wonder whether this, in effect, and it's not just what's going on here, there are other pockets of the sport that are doing a similar thing, but whether we're actually redefining what fully crewed really is going forwards.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you look at the America's Cup, and you know, it wasn't too far from here in 2007. There was A boats and B boats, and you know, 13th man. Think about that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, come on. And now we're seeing Sail GP sailing days with just, you know, 3-4 people on board in light air. So it makes it tough from an opportunity like creation standpoint. You know, there used to be a lot of avenues for everybody to get into the sport because there were so many seats. So that's a little tricky, you know, which is why France is so good, because there's like a real like grassroots system, you know, and so even if, you know, you're not, it's single-handed and you're not the one person on an IMOCA 60, you know, you can cut your teeth in all these other classes. There's over 100 mini transat boats. It's crazy, you know, so that's where they make up the numbers.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
No.
It was a fantastic day out. I really enjoyed it. It's a real eye-opener every time you get on board these boats. Good luck for the race.
Thanks, we'll take it.